Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of
Gato.
My name is Hans
I'm Edward.
and we are your hosts for now and forevermore.
Or until the great beyond comes and takes us away while in our sleep or something.
Something to that effect. Whatever just fills you with an inordinate amount of anxiety. Hey Edward. Which we're going to speak
Don't we
about
know
in
it?
just a second. Welcome to Gettle episode 41. If you're new to the podcast, thank you so much for joining us. If you are a regular listener, welcome back, bitches. This
Hello.
is one of the better podcasts on the internet for everything to do with gaming, entertainment, technology, and lifestyle, all wrapped up in a wonderful...
Geeky modding list because I've been playing around with mods this week. So
Oh, okay. All right, that's interesting. Okay, Edward. So let's do some general life updates as always. How are you feeling this week? Are you at least a little bit better than last week?
I feel worse than last week. I think it's
Oh,
because
gosh.
I didn't have my antibiotics. Thankfully, I got my script today, so I'm going to get them after this recording. And yeah, I should be better by then. How about you, Hans?
Okay, so just a quick catch up for those of you who might not know what's happening. Edward is currently suffering from incredibly severe jaw spasms. There is actually a name for it, and so he actually does have some specialists with neurologists and so on and so forth planned in the very near future, and we're very much hoping, especially from my side, that this can be fixed or corrected. And it's, it's super painful. First it was me half falling apart with my back and not being able to do anything for like 2 weeks. And now we have Edward who can barely speak.
Yeah. Look, it happens. I guess we're in that age now. But fortunately, it should all be fixed by December. I have a appointment with a specialist for 8 December, so we'll see how it goes then. So, yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good to know.
Hmm.
All right, so we'll get straight into it now that we know we're both not totally falling apart just yet and that we do have a means of recovery. Before we begin, because normally we always go straight into reviews and previews and that, and one of the things that we're absolutely going to speak about today is the Sony PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, it's a great console. But before we get to that, I want to address something that happened in the last week. And that is that for those of you who do listen, if you listen to episode 40, there was a moment where Edward and I were talking about the console, and we'd only had it for like a day or two by that point. And, I launched into a bit of a rant about the system. I don't believe I was at fault for saying what I did, because anyone who is a gamer, and as I explained in that episode, I approached it from the point of actually a fan of PlayStation, and how I was a little bit disappointed at the little things that were not, sorted out in terms of the software. But I will speak a little bit more in depth about that a bit later. So the reason why I'm mentioning this is because also, for those of you who actually listen to Gettle, not people who just decide to pop in and take things out of context, and there are quite a few of them apparently, you'll know that when we speak about things on Gettle, if we find that maybe we said something that wasn't correct, or perhaps we find new information that we understand actually invalidates something we previously said, we actually talk about it without being prompted by anyone. We automatically just go into a newer episode and talk to our listeners about things that we possibly didn't get right, or maybe we had an opinion about something that proved to be incorrect. This is what we do. Anyone who actually listens to the podcast will know that, versus people who just like to pick out things to suit their agenda. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning this is because evidently someone out there, whether it was directly the PR people from Sony, or if it was somebody else who just didn't agree with what we said, decided to send that snippet to PlayStation. And that's fine. Like, I stand by the things that I say on Gettle Podcast. This is my opinion. It is a place for me to talk about things regardless of how right or possibly wrong I could be. I mean, I'm human. I'm not perfect. I'm not always going to be able to say things, without some form of infallibility possibly following me along the way. Don't get me wrong. I strive for the most part to always try and be as accurate as possible. And I know that Edward does as well, but we're human. We're infallible. What else do you want me to say to that? Anyway, to try and cut a long story short, the PR got in touch with me and they wanted to actually talk about that one particular segment from the episode. I wish I could elaborate more on that because, unfortunately, after receiving that very anxiety-inducing email, because it's one of the first of its kind I've ever received, I have yet to actually speak to them about it. Now, I want you to all understand that this is not due to a lack of communication from my part. I do believe I've done everything that I can in terms of messages, emails, and phone calls. But also, I want to be cognizant of the fact that it's also not their fault for not getting back to me. The fact of the matter is, this is PlayStation 5's launch week. It is intense. Even on the best of days, public relations people have a very difficult job. Yeah. So I am actually cognizant of that. And, I can take my hat off to the fact that, what they're doing is a difficult and, for the most part, a very underappreciated job. That's just the truth. People only see the end effect. They don't actually see the hard work that goes on behind the scenes. And I say this from a point of experience because I know also what it's like to work in PR and marketing and how you can do things and then you'll just get one person to perceive it the wrong way and it just makes it all come crashing down. And that's kind of like how this last week felt to me. With that said, obviously, I'm still looking forward to, talking to them and find out exactly what the issues were. Now, what is most interesting about that, and hopefully, people who did tune in last week are tuning in again this week because, last week's video was our most downvoted video. So here's hoping that those of you who took the time to watch and downvote are actually tuning in this week to, see how things turn out. Now, with that said, what was interesting about the whole experience is that over the weekend, and Edward knows this because we even have the textual communication, not that I care to prove it, but the fact is I actually told him over the weekend that, hey, given my own testing with the PlayStation 5, it turns out I was actually wrong about the 120 frames per second deal that we had previously heard from Digital Foundry, which is a very reputable UK source for tech and gaming. Mm-hmm. To cut a long story short, basically, PlayStation 5 does allow you to change frame rate and resolution within the system settings, and it doesn't lock to 120 megahertz display if it finds that it's 120 megahertz. So yeah, from that perspective, absolutely, I made a mistake. And the funny thing is, I was actually planning on talking about that this week before anybody decided to contact me about the fact that the information might not be correct.
Yeah.
So, I have to mention it like that because I just found it a little, not necessarily ironic, but humorous to me because anyone who actually listens to Gettle, not just comes around and decides, I'm going to pick that out of context snippet, would know that this is how Edward and I operate. We often might say something that could be incorrect. Why? Because that's the way the world works. Oftentimes, news will come out, and goodness knows, 2 weeks later, oops, that news turns out wasn't exactly correct. Now, as I mentioned before, what are we supposed to do about that? If we've read something that comes from a reputable source and it says one thing, and then later on it turns out it's incorrect, the fact that we mentioned it the first time doesn't invalidate our initial opinions. What it does do, rather, is it just means that at least we take the time to come and speak to our audiences about the fact that we were incorrect, which most people don't end up doing. Now, with all of that aside, I would actually like to talk to all of you about the PlayStation 5. I reviewed it. I wrote a very lengthy, 2,500 word review on it, which we'll link below. I also produced what I would like to think fairly comprehensive 25-minute video review. With that in mind, I'd also like to point out, and at least from what I understand, and by all means, anybody who's watching, you're welcome to correct me on this, I do think it is the only video review from a South African. So I do hope that you will give me the support. You can like it, you can comment, you can share it, and let me know what you think. And because I'm always willing to improve. Now, with the PlayStation 5 in mind, and of course, everything that I'm going to say now is my professional opinion because I have now reviewed it professionally on Vamers and YouTube. So, with that said, the system itself is actually very good. It's wonderfully designed. I know that initially I was a little bit divisive. Like, I mean, when you look at it, you either like it or you don't. That's just the honest truth about it. And I've grown to really like it. Every time I glance over at the machine, I enjoy the waves, the flaps, the way the LED sort of lights up the top, and I describe it in the video as like the Batman. the
flap.
the Batman flaps. It's beautiful. Unfortunately, it's very big. So in my current setup, when it's not here in my study, it unfortunately has to sit behind my TV. That's just the reality of the situation. But overall, it's generally a very nice looking console, minus the scratchy fingerprint magnet black bit in the middle, which does look a bit cheap. Again, overall, console is great. Hardware-wise, in terms of the way it performs really well. It's fast. Games load in a matter of seconds, only if they're PlayStation 5 games. I will concede how PS4 games are still slow. There's not the kind of improvement that you would see on Series X from a backwards compatibility perspective. But hey, at least the option's there. It's the first Sony system to allow backwards compatibility. So from that perspective, it's ace.
Yeah.
Look, as I said for the Series X review, it really isn't so much about hardware and internals. It's about what does the system feel like. So, from that perspective, the system is great. It's quick. The operating system is beautiful. There are so many wonderful improvements like a control center, which basically emulates the Xbox guide. Honestly, I implore you to watch the video. A lot of what I'm now repeating in this podcast is in the video. And I feel if you're either watching Gettle on YouTube or if you're listening to it somewhere else, you can also listen to the video or watch the video. I cover a lot of these points, but overall, really what I want to say is that the DualSense is by far the best thing about the PS5. It is an incredible piece of tech. Granted, when I did receive my machine, the DualSense was dead in the box, but Sony were very, very good in terms of exchanging that within 24 hours for me so that I could get the review process going. So I wouldn't really worry too much about it. I mean, it is hardware. Hardware has failures. I mean, I also know people in the Series X review program who had one or two hardware niggles along the way, which actually ended up being software. So, these things are still very much new and they will improve with time. In terms of improvement, there were a few things that I mentioned last week, which actually turned out to very well be true for my review in terms of the software for the PlayStation 5. And that is by the fact that I absolutely stand by what I said, and that is that it feels half-baked. So yes, it's beautiful. Yes, it's fast. Yes, it's very good. But it's lacking basic features that were available in the PlayStation 4. Things like organizing your games or sorting them. Even like one of the most basic features, which is moving PlayStation 5 games. You literally can't do it. So what sparked off my initial rant in episode 40 is still present now in episode 41, after I've had a fairly lengthy time with the machine and I've done all the tests that I need to do. My biggest issue with it, and the fact that you cannot copy PlayStation 5 games to external storage of any kind, is a big problem. When you only have a 667 gig hard drive out of 825 gigs that are usable, just installing the 4 PlayStation 5 review games that I had took up more than a quarter of the SSD space. That is a problem, given how those 4 games cannot be moved anywhere. They cannot be stored somewhere else for future use. And it basically then means that if you run out of space, you have to delete your games and download them again. Now, in the day and age of fiber and broadband, that's normally not an issue, but many people still have caps. So it's a problem. Now, of course, it's a software limitation. That's by no means a hardware limitation. So the software will, in time, get better. But I stand by the fact that right now, at this point in time, and the biggest validation I have on this part is that I know I'm not the only person who feels this way. You can, by all means, go out there and have a look at a lot of other South African reviewers who feel very similarly that the software is just not up to snuff for what is incredible hardware.
Yeah.
And, with that in mind, my overall take, and again, I've mentioned this before, it also applies to the Series X and the Series S, is if you have the money and you want the very best, either PlayStation or Xbox, absolutely go and get these consoles. By all means, invest in them, because a console is an investment. A console is not, it's not like a PC, where you want to have to upgrade it all the time to get the best thing. You buy a console and you have it for like a minimum 5, most people even 7 years, So like the initial investment is very, very good from a cost perspective over time. But if you can't, honestly speaking, you're not missing out. You really just aren't. Yes, they're great to have, and awesome is even more so if you have a great TV that takes advantage of all the features. But right now, neither system is truly worth your money. It's just the truth of the matter. Whether those are softer features that might not work, like Series X has quick resume problems, or PlayStation 5 where you can't delete things, or where it erases your external storage, which happened to me. The fact is the software right now for both systems, but more so on PlayStation, it leaves a lot to be desired. So hardware is fantastic, but software operating systems are a bit of an issue. In addition to that, the games. Sure, there's some great exclusives on PlayStation at the moment, which are not available anywhere else. But are those games worth investing right now in the system? Truthfully, no. Wait a little bit, because there's so many more games coming. Like Ratchet and Clank is one of the few games I'm so keen to get, but that's been delayed to, I think it's like February or March.
And not only that, most games are still available for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One.
Yes, thank you. That's actually a very good point. So essentially, you're not missing out. So if you happen to stay with your current Xbox console, your current PlayStation console, and you decide not to upgrade just yet, you'll be good. Why? Because Miles Morales and Sackboy, A Big Adventure, are both available on PS4 as well. And then from an Xbox perspective, there are almost 0 exclusives for the Series X coming out at the end of this year. Most have been delayed. Corona has done a big number on a lot of people. With that said, and from a multi-platform perspective, sure, you can get whichever console you want because the multi-plats are excellent on both. Whether that's Cold War from Call of Duty or Cyberpunk that's coming hopefully in a month from now if there's no more delays. There is good stuff to play. And Assassin's Creed Valhalla, we've spoken about this before. That is absolutely a phenomenal game.
Yeah.
And it's actually the best-selling Assassin's Creed game of all time, apparently. So that's
for good reason.
For good reason. Anyway, that's that. Now I know that Edward has also had some good time with the system. So it took me about 3 days to produce that video, 2 to 3 days, my video review. And in that time, I actually gave the console to Edward. So I did everything I needed to do over the weekend, and then did my best to work without the machine in the days leading up to the release. And Edward's had it since then. And I've been taking up all the airtime, but I'd love for you, Edward, to give us, the listeners and myself, your honest opinion, because it was your first time with the machine. When I gave it to you, you set it up from scratch. You were able to do everything you needed to do. So how was it?
I mostly agree with what you said so far in your entire review. I did find that setting up the console was a schlep, though. So I don't know if this was just my software giving me issues or anything, but essentially, Sony did this new thing where they took a page out of Microsoft's book, where you can set up the console and then use your phone to basically sign in and
awesome.
get all and it works nice and flawlessly.
Quick. Yeah.
Now that process worked for me as well, but now in getting my stuff from the old console, from the PS4 Pro, that was a bit more of an issue. So where Xbox basically everything's in the cloud always, whether you pay for gold or not. All your achievements, all your save data will always be in the cloud. You'll never have to worry about that going away. For PlayStation, for the longest time, it was available to PlayStation Plus members only. That is cloud storage. Okay. And essentially, this created a weird dilemma thing. I've only recently I only recently started getting PlayStation Plus because I don't really see a benefit in that. I don't play online at all. Um, so obviously for me, it's easy to go on the PS4 and tell it to upload all my save data. That's gigabytes worth of save data. I'll
Yes,
have you
yes.
know that hasn't been updating for the longest time, which hasn't been syncing to the cloud. So the
Okay.
other solution is to plug the PS4 directly into the PS5 via Ethernet cable with the RJ45 connector.
Yes. So I mean,
And
look, the people that I've heard do that have had exceptional results. As in,
yeah,
because it runs at gigabit speeds, it's actually super fast.
yeah, and
Uh,
it. I've only heard good things about it. To be
yes, yes.
fair, so that's why I think it might be a software thing. But when I went on the PlayStation 5 and I told it to find my PlayStation 4 via Ethernet, and I went on the PlayStation 4 and made sure it was connected, the two refused to talk to each other. Now,
Fair
both
enough.
consoles are up to date. Both consoles have been set up correctly on the same Wi Fi, on the same accounts, and they just refuse to see each other. Now, I don't know why, I don't know how. So I let it run for a while, still nothing. At the end of the day, I just had to do the upload.
Well, look. I suppose
And
the other solution, and it's the one that I actually recommended to you,
mm-hmm,
is it's exactly what you can do on Xbox, whereby if you have external storage, and you're using external storage for like 80% of your games and things, you can literally just back up everything to that, plug it
yeah,
out, and plug it into your PS5, and you're good to go. It's super quick. It's super easy. That's actually how I chose to do things because
yeah,
um, speaking from previous experience, obviously not. I didn't do the connecting of the consoles from PS4 to PS5 purely because I mean I didn't. I don't even do that on Xbox because Xbox has network transfer as well. The reason
mm,
why for me is because a physical backup of something is always more reliable, in my opinion. So, by putting everything on a physical drive and then just plugging it out and plugging it in somewhere else, to me is just it cuts out any hassles. Because I distinctly remember having that problem years ago for PS3 to PS4. It could never work. It just wouldn't work.
mm.
So ever since then and moving forward, for every console I've gotten, I've just been like, nah, I'm just gonna use external storage and just switch that way because it's just faster. or
Yeah.
or
See,
because we have super fast fiber now, just download
just
from scratch.
re-download it. Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
the main reason why I haven't been using external storage is again because it's good. It goes back to the conversation we had last week,
Yes.
which comes down to the fact that when you put something on external storage, you can't copy it. You have to move it on PlayStation.
That limit. Oh, I just want to point out as well that limitation is 100% still on PS5. I know.
Yes, it
I tested
is.
it myself this time, so it's not hearsay.
So what ended up happening is when because we are two different people reviewing games for a single publication,
Yeah.
and Hans is the one at the studio. He has the fiber connection, so he downloads
Correct.
the
Yeah.
games, and then if the game is designated to me for review, I'll come to Hans and pick it up via external.
Yeah.
Now,
It's just
the
it's just the easiest form of look. We've mentioned this before as well. We'll often get one review code, right? Which
mm,
means that one code is linked to one account. Now, what
yeah,
Edward and I have done to make things easier for ourselves is I have his account on my system and he
mhm,
has my account on his system.
mm,
And depending on who's reviewing what, it will get redeemed to the relevant account. But
yeah,
either way, the fact of the matter is I have access to superfast fiber, Edward doesn't. So regardless of what we need to review, I do the downloading. Regardless of whether
yeah,
it's my account or Edward's account, it doesn't make a difference. I have to do the
yeah.
downloading. And this is the issue that Edward is now talking about, which still remains.
Exactly. And the thing is, if I keep the games on the external and I keep plugging it into our respective consoles, for some reason the PlayStation home screen fills up with all the games on the console,
Okay, but
and
that
it
was
won't go away
but that
if you
was a
unplug it.
PS4 thing.
Yes, no, it was a PS4 thing. It's also a PS5 thing, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll tell you now how I discovered that. Um, and then suddenly you have all these games listed on your console, which you can't remove from your home screen easily.
Edward is he's referencing a pet peeve of mine. So, what he's talking about is because I would download the titles, right? And he would then bring his hard drive from home. What would happen is if we plug it into my PS4, okay, which has my account enabled and his account enabled, what would happen is if there are any games on the external, they will all, as he's saying now, they'll all auto-populate immediately the full menu. And then when you take out that drive, it doesn't remove the games. They all sit there. And then what ends up happening is that even though I'm on my profile, they all sit there, and then I have to either delete them manually, or they'll give me this triangle telling me the game is not available.
Yeah, like
So,
what is that?
okay.
I don't know.
So I get what you're getting at. So essentially, what he's saying is the reason why he'd never really use external storage is because we had one hard drive purely for moving PlayStation games, and he didn't put anything on it because it would always irritate me if there were other games that would preload.
To be fair, it would irritate us both.
Okay, fair enough.
So anyway, that's a minor thing. That's obviously an us problem.
Yeah, that's not a global.
but that's why all my games were on my internal. Now
Yeah.
copying over to the external though, it took so long.
Yes, but that's PS4 though. It's always
weird.
been slow. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
So anyway, that was hours worth of copying over, and then I finally got to the PlayStation 5, copied everything in, everything except my achievement data. I had to do that via cloud. Fortunately, I could do the.
But that's all right though. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
fine.
achievements and trophies should be in the cloud in any case.
Yeah, it should be. I didn't know it wasn't.
Oh.
Yeah, you have to literally go and sync it up.
Yeah.
I don't know if. Anyway, that's what I had to do. I will say, copying over the save data via USB was fast, and as soon as the PlayStation 5 had my save data, I didn't need to relog into any apps. I download YouTube because the console has my save data for YouTube. It knows I'm logged into the app.
Oh, that's awesome. That's actually awesome. Yeah.
So Showmax, Netflix,
You see,
DSTV,
look,
all of those.
Okay, so we're going to talk about that just for a second as well. So, I didn't know that. That's actually really good to know because there's nothing worse than moving to a new device and then having to re-log in because let's be honest here. Controllers are great and all, but they're not the best for text input. Even the touchpad and the DualSense and DualShock, it doesn't work. It's not as nicely as you would expect. That's great. Now, I personally don't use consoles for media. That's because we have an Apple TV or a smart TV with the stuff built in. And I find it interesting that you actually do. I actually like the fact that you do because one of the few things that I thought was so humorous in the setup of the PlayStation 5 is how during the setup process, amongst really great additions, like asking if you want to install games while it's loading, it allows you to set up the machine really well before you even get into the operating system. And I actually love that aspect of it because it gets you up and going a lot quicker, basically. But the reason why I found it humorous was that eventually you get to a point where it actually it bombards you with hey, these are all the entertainment apps we can install for you. Do you want them? And I just found that so interesting because if anybody recalls the PS4, Xbox One launch, Microsoft went all in on this one system for home and entertainment, and Sony had a lot of really smart and witty comebacks to that. And then throughout most of the generation, they were Xbox was really put down because of the fact that they were pushing that. And I just thought it was really funny that during the actual setup of a games machine, I was asked, and don't get me wrong, I understand the convenience of this feature. I just find it really humorous that it was even an option to begin with.
After last generation, they dogged Xbox.
Anyway, look, it's cool. It's awesome. The entire setup process for me went out without a hitch. I'm sorry to hear that you've had a little bit more difficulty than most. But honestly, when do network transfers ever really work? Even in the PC.
That's the problem. That's the thing.
As I mentioned, it's cool that it's there, but really you're always better off just doing a hard drive or something. Do
Yeah. To be fair, it's not a fault to Sony. It's just a thing that happened. I'm not mad. It's just an inconvenience on my part. So my experience for the console, otherwise though, it's pretty great. I do like it. I like the UI.
Yes.
there are
It's very pretty,
noticeable
and it sounds awesome.
features
Oh,
not
yeah, hold
there.
on. I need to punt this quickly. If anybody wants to listen to what the menu music sounds like on the PS5, I've
Ah,
done a really
yes.
cool 10-minute video. It's super smoothing and what I would consider as hauntingly beautiful. If anybody likes to just have something that's like drones on in the background, go and listen to it. We'll link to it in the show notes. It's really nice. I'm not just saying that. Like, it's genuinely like when I was reviewing the system and while I was working on other things like the actual written review, or the text or whatever it is that I was doing, I actually had it playing because it was connected to my capture cards and stuff, and it's really nice. It's really, really good.
See, on that note, actually, I sent Hans a message earlier while I was setting up the PS4, sorry, the PS5. The thing I'm gonna miss the most of the PS4 is the themes you could
Oh, but
install on it.
they'll come. They'll
No,
come.
the
I'm sure
thing
they
is,
will.
the reason they're not there yet is because every time you hover over a new game, the entire theme of the PS5 changes to the game's theme.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
So basically, I used to have this cool Far Cry 5 theme with a cool acoustic theme in the background, just casual guitar playing, and it was so nice. And now every time it's either Demon Souls or Spider-Man, Miles
It's
Morales,
your
rap
last
song.
played, I presume. Look. I
Yeah,
have a feeling themes are still gonna come, and I
they
think that
should. Yeah.
maybe they'll be even better than before. But I think that people will now even be able to customize things like the startup. That's what I think. I mean, I have no proof for this, but like the login menu, the one where it pops up and it
Yeah.
tells you. I think that they have some special things in store. I mean, I don't know. But I'd like to think that they would, because I mean, imagine how cool that would be.
It would
Imagine
make
like,
sense.
imagine like, because you're playing Demon Souls, right? So
Hmm.
Edward's review is still coming, most likely available in the next couple of days. But imagine like, because like apparently there's some news that you can hear Metal Gear Solid's Rex screaming in the background in Demon Souls allegedly. Imagine that is like the startup. Like there's a scream and then there's like fog and then it's like your name and you have to click through. Like that would be
Yeah,
super cool. That would be super cool.
I can see them doing that. It's a very much a PC thing to do, actually. But yeah, I
Oh
would dig
yeah.
that. To be
Okay.
fair.
Look. So that's essentially PlayStation 5 in a nutshell. If you want an in-depth review, written review, please check out Famous.com. If you would like to watch a video review, please check out my YouTube video for more details. Because this is a podcast, and we've really dedicated more than enough time to this
Yeah.
machine here, in my personal opinion. Although I do want to talk about the DualSense quickly. Like I said, it's the best part of the machine. The controller, in my personal opinion, really does offer sensational feedback from a haptic perspective, and the triggers as well are just something else. My only concern, and this really applies to both the rumble triggers of the Xbox controllers and even the HD rumble on the Switch, is that if developers don't support it, those usefulness and those features are just going to go by the wayside. And even in the current launch titles, Astrobot is currently the only title that really takes advantage of it,
Yeah.
which is a bit disappointing. I mean, even Edward, who reviewed Miles Morales, the same thing. You
Yeah.
barely feel the functions of the controller, which is disappointing given how these are first-party titles. Anyway,
Yes.
that aside, just quickly, while we're still on the topic of PlayStation, just want to give you a really brief overview of the launch titles. Astro's Playroom is probably one of the best titles for the system, and the good news is it's on every system. So it's preloaded, it's pre-installed, and for good reason, because it really showcases what the DualSense controller is capable of. And really, when you've played it, you'll want almost every game to have those kinds of, okay, not every game, because the truth of the matter is it can be a little bit overstimulating, but overall it's really just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Then there's also Sackboy's Big Adventure. Now it's a really, really great platformer. It's based on Little Big Planet. Unfortunately, it doesn't have any of the creative elements, but it does at least keep the ability to play with friends. It's decent. I call it an average platformer. There's not much of a narrative, but it is fun and it looks beautiful. But again, it doesn't take full advantage of the DualSense as much as I would like. But it's a great game. If you are looking for a good platformer other than Astro's Playroom, it's well worth possibly investing in for your launch system. Then, of course, there is Miles Morales and Demon Souls. We don't have Demon Souls feedback for you right now because, as we mentioned before, we've only had the system for a little over a week. And in that time, to produce, and I'm just going to be really honest here, to produce a 24-minute video, a 3,000-word review, an unboxing video, an unboxing article, 4 video game reviews is a lot of work for 2 people in 7 days. So Demon Souls isn't quite ready yet, but it's coming. And with that said, Edward, by all means, give us your take on Miles Morales.
Miles Morales is great. To be fair, I do like the game a lot.
But of course you do. Just... I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it'll make it into the video, but like, there's a Miles Morales poster on your.
I like everything Spider-Man. Miles Morales is a character that I never really got into until very recently, and the reason for that is because I just stopped reading comics. And I used to read all the Spider-Man comics. Now, Miles Morales. So basically, the way I have been getting used to Miles Morales is via the animated stuff and via the movies and the games, essentially. And I do love the character a lot. I love his story in the game, in the Spider-Man Miles Morales. It's a short story, though. It's very short. The entire experience is short. Yes. But I do like how Insomniac kind of doubled down on that fact. Everything is short. The skill tree is shortened. It's more succinct. The narrative is short. Even the side quests are shorter, tinier experiences. So basically, it's a motif that throughout the entire game, everything is just lesser and tinier and more condensed.
Which is not a bad thing. I mean, sometimes less is more.
It's good.
Yeah.
But it creates this weird dilemma that I think this was not meant to be a launch title. This was meant to be an expansion or a DLC for the main game, which is just Marvel Spider-Man for the PlayStation 4. Yes. Regardless of that fact, it ended up being a launch title, and it ended up being good. It is a good title. I just can't get over the fact that it feels like it wasn't meant to be.
And of course, we're not going to get into the whole upgrade debacle because we've already spoken about that in a previous
in length. So
because ideally and honestly speaking, really, they haven't handled that very well. But hey, Miles Morales is a good game. If you're interested in it for your PS5, it's also a great showcase title because it looks beautiful.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
On that note,
yes?
Sorry, Hans. I have also been playing a little bit of Spider-Man Remastered, which is also a quote-unquote launch title for the PlayStation 5. It's literally just 2018 Spider-Man with beautiful graphics.
Yeah.
That's literally it. It's the same game. Peter has a new face.
Which then technically means it's excellent. Hey?
Yeah. I mean, it was a good game.
That was your... Didn't you almost give it a perfect score in 2018?
Almost.
I think it was. Wasn't
almost. It wasn't.
Almost.
My first perfect score was Last of Us.
Okay. But either way, it was a very, very highly rated title. So if all they've really done is made it look prettier and you've never played
it's just a win. Yes.
Then it's worth getting. Of course, if you already own it on PS4, I personally feel the upgrade should be free, but hey, it isn't. So we don't want to. I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah.
We've already spoken about this before. So
yes.
Okay, there's something else, but I think I'm gonna give that a little bit more time before I speak about it. It's actually a new TV show that I've started watching. It's got to do with the Marvel's universe. I haven't seen enough of it to really have a definitive opinion, but for our finale next week, I'll let you know if it's worthy of watching or not. With that said, though, I do want to say that The Crown season 4 is absolutely incredible. It's the one that features Diana.
I've heard very good things about it.
It is so good. And Gillian Anderson, which we all know is already a babe. Now, I'm not saying that she's hot as Margaret Thatcher, but she does such a fantastic performance. You know, I've always been a fan of Gillian Anderson, and I've always thought that she's an incredible actress, and she gives it her all for this role. Like, you know, you're watching it, you can just see the nuance in her face. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Just before we move on, just one last little tidbit for those of you who are actually listening to the podcast and aren't just picking up your glory bits. There is a difference between the word remake and remaster. And I often get confused between the two. And that's all that I want to say about that. Okay. So with some better anxiety and lessening vibes, because I do feel better about having spoken about everything now, I want to speak a bit about music and how it makes you feel. So, Edward and our wonderful listeners, I don't know if our voices are giving you goosies when you listen to Get or Not.
Especially if we talk like this.
If they do, then you might be experiencing something called frisson I think it's frisson. I don't know. Anyway, that's actually not what I'm going to be speaking about. So I mentioned this because, I've always wondered, why do certain musical tracks exhibit that in me? Like, why do they give me goosies, or why do they make me feel good? And there's actually a lot of research into the way that music makes you feel, specifically in terms of releasing endorphins and dopamine into the body. And I thought that was actually incredibly interesting. So I decided to read a little bit more about it. And there is a direct correlation, it seems, between emotions and the music you listen to. And I suppose in many respects that makes sense. Those beautiful songs that sing about heartbreak really people are drawn to them because they feel that they can relate to what the artist is singing about. Now, from my perspective, I actually almost never listen to words. So I'm not entirely sure how that really applies to me. Now, I'm curious to those of you who listen to Gettle. Do you also listen to words in songs, or are you more of you listen to the tone and the sound and the way that makes you feel? Edward, what about you? Like, are you a bit of both, or are you more like me?
Mostly words. I don't do the entire tone only thing unless the music was meant to convey that.
See, this is why I can listen to that like PlayStation background music and really get something out of it. Like, I would rather listen to that than like the latest Nicki Minaj. But then again, who really wants to listen to Nicki Minaj anyway? No, well, actually, I mean, I know that some of our listeners do love Nicki Minaj and rap and stuff like that. So, I mean, no offense. I'm just saying, as a humorous perspective. Anyway, so research was done into this, with like the emotional connection to music and that. And these two neuroscientists by the names of Anne Blood and Robert Zator from McGill University actually provided an answer through the use of magnetic resonance imaging, which showed that the pleasurable aspects of the brain light up, most notably the limbic and paralimbic areas. Specifically when music that you enjoy comes on. And it's very, very interesting because these euphoric responses are, in many respects, also related to aspects of sex, good food, and addictive drugs. So, what the research actually implied is that, for the most part, really good music that really makes you feel good, or that you're really in tune with, is basically like being on a drug high.
Beats and stuff to chill by.
Yeah, and it's basically because your neurotransmitters get like a gush of dopamine. So like that's why, like, if you listen to something, you're like, oh, that's so good, And I'm then wondering, like, could that be coupled with the frisson frisson that I was talking about earlier? Frisson. That's what I think. That's how I think you say it. Maybe me getting goosies when I'm listening is the same as if I was on a high or with something else. I mean, I don't know. I've never taken hard drugs. I can't tell if it's similar or not. But like, I do want to give you an example of one song that really like did it for me, or does it for me. It's from Interstellar, and that's probably why I love that movie so much. It's I've forgotten the name of the song, but it's obviously a Hans Zimmer track. Again, if I'm incorrect about that, oops. And it's just the most beautiful. It's like it's he always has that like clock sequence in his music, right? And I distinctly remember it. It's where before when he's still on Earth and he's with his kids as young children, and they're in the fields, and like there's like a drone shot of them driving that, and the music kicks in, and it builds up, and builds up. And every time, without fail, when I listen to that track, I get goosebumps.
Yeah, it's a good track.
It is good. It is good. So there's a lot of other research into why people think this happens, and some of those things stem to how like one of the favorite theories is the cognition of music, so how you understand it. And that's what I was mentioning earlier about, like, do you listen to words, and then do the words make you feel things, you know what I mean? So there's that. And then in addition to that, there's another theory that kind of postulates how the way we perceive music comes from an evolutionary point in time whereby we would hear sounds in the world around us and they could either be attributed to fear or pleasure or safety, that kind of thing. So it's interesting. As always, we'll link to the article. By all means, go and have a look. Now. Dear scientists, okay? We have spoken about chimeras in the past, episode 18, for those of you who'd like to go back. We have also watched Planet of the Apes. Please tell me why y'all bitches are not taking these movies into consideration for the research we're about to speak about next.
Says the one who wants dinosaurs to come back.
Shh. Dinosaurs are not the same. Okay.
Okay.
Listen.
Fine.
No. Okay. Hold. No. Okay. Okay. Wait. So let me tell you what this is about, and then I will come back to the dinosaur thing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So a long story short is scientists are growing bigger monkey brains using a particular human gene. If that doesn't give you, if that is not making the hairs on your back and not the good kind of goosebumps pick up, I don't know what else should be, because this is scary. All right, this is literally the plot point of
Planet of the
Apes. So I don't know what they're doing or why they're doing it. I mean, we do. It's in the thing now. Just to get back to what Edward was saying about the dinosaurs, this is different. Bringing back dinosaurs doesn't imply using a gene from the human brain to see if their brains are going to get bigger. Okay? Bringing back a dinosaur is just a wonderful, glorious, wonderful and amazing thing that needs to happen in my lifetime. Okay? Please, Elon Musk, don't stop putting chips in pigs' brains and bring me dinosaurs. Okay? Honestly. Okay, so what is essentially happening is that humans have large brains, all right? From a mammalian perspective, we have one of the biggest versus the rest of our body ratio, all right? It's where we attribute intelligence comes from because of the amount of neurons we have and so on and so forth. So what scientists have been doing is they want to see if they've identified the gene that allows our brain to grow bigger than other mammals. And so they've been doing tests on primates because, the school of thought is, from Darwinian perspective, is that we've evolved from primates. So the research looks into why didn't their brains also enlarge to the point that ours have. And so they've been doing tests on primate brains using human genes, and they've actually managed to pinpoint the gene that does it.
Okay.
This is not a good thing, y'all, okay? Because, sure, there might be reasonings why they're doing this, maybe to improve human genetics in the future. I don't know. But, I mean, you're already experimenting. All you need is one of these primates to escape with human levels of intelligence and cognition. And boom, you have Planet of the Apes.
Yeah,
literally. Because understand now, we're messing with genes. So if one of these, animals had to escape and then breed with other animals of its kind, those genes get passed down. That's how it works. Anyway, so it's very, very fascinating, and essentially, this is where we're at. I mean, I can talk about it a bit more, but rather what I'm going to do is I'm going to link to the article because it's a fascinating read, and they talk about how exactly they did it, which neurons were increased and, what layers in the brain changed and so on and so forth. Also, if you have a look at the images of the brains, I don't want to say what I think they look like, but y'all can let us know in the comments or in DM. Now, moving on to something a little bit more useful. As you know, we do this trend sometimes where if we come across something cool, like a website or something, we'll speak about it. Something to add some flavor to your life. For those of you who know, we have mentioned it a few times, I casually stream every now and again. Now, I have been really bombarded with a lot of work. Long story short, there's a very cool website called Nobody Live, and what it does is it, in particular, will, when you click on the link, it will serve you a video of somebody streaming on Twitch that currently has 0 viewers. And I love this because as somebody who has dabbled in online streaming, and I enjoy it, I wish I had more time for it. I really, really do enjoy it. It's always such a wonderful pleasure when somebody tunes in and then starts talking to you. It's a dopamine rush. No, it's a it's a very it's a lovely feeling to know that there's an audience and they like what you're doing and they're watching. It's very similar in many respects to the way that I feel about YouTube. I am very much a small YouTuber. I know this, but that is fact, and I'm mostly about facts. And I'm privileged that the channel is growing, and I now take my time to really talk to the people who choose to leave comments because they're taking the time out of their day to support my content. And if the least that I can do is say hi, I'm going to. And I feel a lot of people who stream feel the same way. They're doing it possibly because they love what they're doing and they want to share it. And therefore, when somebody watches or interacts with them, it's a lovely feeling. Even just a simple comment of, hey, you're doing a good job. Or if you go and find them on Twitter and you follow them or anything like that, it goes an exceptionally long way to, encouraging your favorite creators to continue making content. Yeah. And so the reason why I love this Nobody Live is because it really highlights people who don't have an audience yet. And, more often than not, and I've seen this before, some of the higher or highest quality YouTube videos that I've enjoyed come from tiny creators. Sometimes sub 1,000 views or not views, 1,000 subscriptions, but like the quality is just so good. Now, I'm not talking about myself here. I'm not boosting myself here. I'm just genuinely talking about some of the few people that I've honestly seen. And this goes in direct contrast to some of my favorite creators, like Justine. She's fantastic. I will always watch her stuff, But then there are others, like MKBHD, who I don't think is really all that good. I mean, he is good. He's good. His stuff generally is very good, but he's not like as in depth. And again, this comes down to the audience that you want to have. Like I've generally watched like his video, then I'll go and watch Justine's video, and in my opinion, and my style, and what I enjoy, I find she has better content. It's more suited to me. So what I'm getting by that is by maybe looking at people who don't have views, you might actually find somebody who really gels with you versus somebody who already has 20,000 live people watching. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, it's just a really small thing. I figured, why not? Now in terms of friends possibly supporting and that, and of course I'm speaking the whole time now. This is supposed to be a discussion. Edward, I want you to know that if we were in a forest and we were camping and there happened to be a bear, as much as I'd like to say that my first reaction would be to pull you along with me, I might shove you to the ground and save myself.
No, I mean, survival of the fittest.
I actually, I'm saying this in jest, obviously. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because there's actually been a notice that popped up by the National Park Service in America, which states that you should not sacrifice your friends to bears to get away safely.
Oh, you should not.
You should not.
Gosh.
You should not do it, okay? Just in case anybody needed that clarity of, don't push somebody down. You now have it. So, basically, a long story short is that they actually talk about what you should do. Now, we don't have bears in South Africa, so it's not something we generally have to worry about. But if there are any international listeners, essentially what they do recommend is that you stand your ground and attempt to frighten the bear off. Now, of course, it might not work to your advantage, but basically, like screaming and shouting and moving your arms, or like just screaming at it works a lot better than using your fingers or your hands, because bears don't know that. Anyway, basically what they're trying to say is that you've got to try and make it out that you're human and that you're not an animal, because apparently they can distinguish the difference. But at the same time, you also shouldn't run, because bears are like dogs. They'll chase you. And believe me, they're faster and stronger than you are.
Bears are scary.
Yes. And anyway, the whole thing, it basically they say that what you should do is you should move away closely and sideways. You know, kind of like sideways.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently that comes across as non-threatening. I know that traditionally the MO was pretend you're dead, which does work, because they'll come, they'll sniff you, maybe scratch you a little bit, and then they'll leave. You know? Anyway, look, please do not take this as advice of what to do. Go and look it up, okay? I'm just sort of giving you a very succinct overview of what they have put out there. And that's basically, please do not sacrifice your friends to bears.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, who knows what else lays in store? NSFW. I didn't know how to lead into that.
No, neither did I. Don't worry.
I mean, we're going from bears to robots, so Edward, this is very much your topic. So I hope you're surviving there and you're okay.
I hope so. Okay, so I came across an interesting tidbit this week, which is all about older people and people who are maybe disabled, and people you wouldn't think something like sex robots are marketed towards, and turns out that it might be the perfect thing for older people.
Okay, but why older people and not just the general layman?
No. Okay, so
I also want one. I mean,
yeah, obviously, we all want one.
We've spoken about having these kinds of robots many times.
Exactly. Now, the thing is, usually when you see sex robot marketing, it's all for getting the ultimate pleasure out of the ultimate
I have not seen this
object.
marketing, because as I learned in episode 40, I don't click on ads.
Yeah, okay, maybe don't. But if you do, you might learn this. So the thing is, it kind of ends up discouraging older people to click on this because of the very nature of the thing. It's technology. It's meant for pleasure. Now,
listen, my mom can barely distinguish the difference between Messenger, WhatsApp, and iMessage.
Yeah, it's all just text.
Just text, yeah.
So basically, a University of Washington professor of bioethics and humanities came out and said that, but what about these people who are discouraged from this? What about them? Will sex robots not have a different use for these older people? Now, obviously, the idea is to encourage sex robots for older people because of the enhancements sex robots have made.
Nah, you know what this is about. You know what this is really.
What?
For those of you who don't know, okay, old people are raunchy F. Okay?
I mean, that as well. So but that is not the point of the paper.
I think, okay, sure, it is a research paper. I think what's happening here, there's some clever marketing firm has realized there is a niche market to create sex robots for older people because their sex drives increase as they get older. Okay? And they pump more in their 80s than they ever did in their 20s.
I mean, I guess if I'm going out, I'm going out with a bang.
then again, maybe when you're so old, do you really want to play with some silicone and rubber and like artificial things when you can just have the real thing?
See, that's the thing. So many older people already have lost their partners. Many older people just kind of going through life doing all the motions. Now,
yeah.
In this paper published by the Journal of Medical Ethics, the whole point of the paper is basically to put a bigger focus on the fact that sex robots are made to be soft and pliable. Now, what if companies like Oh, I forgot the name now. But
Okay.
that sex robot company we spoke about a few episodes ago. What
Yeah.
if they came out and created an AI? Now that they already have this fancy AI you could talk to. What if they catered that specifically towards someone who's at the further end of life? So the idea is essentially to talk to be able to talk to the robot as a companion, and obviously sex is also
You
a
see,
part of that.
okay, so this is, I don't want to say dangerous, right?
Yeah.
Now, we have touched upon the topic of ethics once before.
Mm.
And I do believe we're going to have to develop ethical treatment around AI. Because the
Yeah.
fact of the matter is, if you're creating an artificial consciousness, regardless of how simple it might be, if it can make judgment calls like, this is nice, this is not nice, I like this, I don't like this, then you're
Mm.
effectively taking the steps towards creating a consciousness. And,
Yeah.
cinema has for a long time dealt with, um, you know, what happens in that regard, and like Edward and I have jested in the past about having like sex robots because we can do whatever we want with them. I mean, we say that just because of it's a convenience thing. That's why
Yeah.
sex toys are popular. If you well, it's more so if you're single, but like if you have one, you use it. You use it when you want, when you feel like it. There's
Exactly.
no barrier to entry. Whereas really, if you are in a loving and committed relationship, you will get that pleasure anyway. But of
Mm.
course, you have to always respect the other person. Always.
Yes.
Okay. And
Exactly.
and this is now the concern, is, or at least from what I'm hearing about this, is, they want to create this AI for these old aging people, but then, you know, primarily from a point of pleasure and sex. Now, that's not to say that they shouldn't be some sort of a companion service, that
Mm-hmm.
speaks to you and like, caresses you or whatever.
Yeah.
But but like, honestly, maybe it's because I've been single for so long. But like, if I want to get my socks off, I just want to have my like 30 seconds and then I'm good. Bye.
Yeah. Then it's sin
It's
afterwards.
obviously it's different. Like if I'm with somebody, it's different. Then I want to pleasure them. I want to interact with. It's different. The emotional connection is different. So
Mm.
what I'm trying to get at is the worry of, what if there's a lack of this emotional connection with an intelligent AI? Do
See,
you,
now the thing is, I get that. It kind of reminds me of the Bicentennial Man, which is a
Yeah, sorry.
movie
Look, I mean, I know
by.
I've like gone off on a tangent now, but like, that's really the thing that comes to mind, is that, think about sex toys. Just think about them for a second. What is their purpose? It's immediate pleasure. It's not you have to coax it or you have to foreplay with. It's immediate pleasure. It gives you what you want
Yeah.
when you want it without having to think about it.
Yeah.
So, by incorporating AI into it, it fundamentally changes the purpose. It changes
Exactly.
how you should interact with it. Anyway,
It,
that's my my
now,
my take.
yeah, your entire take kind of reminds me of the Bicentennial Man, which is a great movie,
Yes, it is very good.
starring Robert.
Jude Law, isn't it?
No,
Oh.
no. Jude Law was an AI.
Oh, right, yeah.
Who played the genie? I forgot his name.
Oh, yes, Robin Williams.
Yes, there we
Yeah,
go.
rest
And
his soul.
basically,
God
he
rest
is
his soul.
this robot who has a conscience, and he grows attached to all his owners and stuff. And it's a good
Yes.
movie. Anyway,
It's a
so
sad movie, Edward. That's what it is.
yeah,
Because the people, it's, it makes me again think of like Toy Story.
mm,
How the kid has this relationship with the toys and doesn't realize that they're alive, and then gets rid of them, and then it hurts the toys. The same thing with
yes,
Bicentennial Man, how he was just passed on from family to family because he was just a robot. He wasn't
yeah,
a, and this is basically what I'm getting at. What if we're now investing all of this tech and research into creating AI for a sex
see,
toy, and
see
then
that
you're gonna, I mean,
that's an interesting take, because another point of the paper is for disabled people, basically to have these sex robots treat them as caregivers, and basically, let's say they do become intelligent, and
rather,
maybe
look, let's not say intelligence. Let's say a conscience.
conscious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because intelligence can be faked. Like
Hmm.
okay Google, Alexa, and Hey Siri. Oh gosh.
Yeah, you just said off everyone listening now.
All of them in my house. You know, they are intelligent to an extent, but they're not conscious. So, like, if I say something to them, they don't really understand it, but they are intelligent enough to give me an answer.
Yeah, it's just algorithm.
Yes.
Now, consciousness. Yeah, it makes sense because that's the point of this paper is for sex robots to cater towards older and disabled people to take care of them.
Yes.
Now, what if? Yeah, it raises an interesting point. But it's.
I'm sorry. I know. I derailed your whole.
No, that's fine. That's
your whole
fine.
talk, but like it's really just what came to mind. I was, like, I think it's great. I think if they're able to do this for aged people and disabled people, awesome. But we have to be careful. We're on that cusp of creating really cognizant AIs, and we have to be careful because you are essentially, I know it's going to sound really strange, like creating life, but if you're creating something that is so intelligent, even if it's just code, where it can read you and understand your emotional, acuities and so on and so forth, then you've made something that is almost in a way alive.
Yeah.
Anyway,
see, I like this topic you broached now because it's actually quite fascinating.
It is. I mean, of course, we could know more, and maybe things that we're saying are not accurate. But like, this is why I love Gettle. This is why we're doing this.
So we're just throwing stuff out there. the thing is, as it stands, that's not an issue. Obviously, it's just
right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So as it stands, this paper says, we should maybe give sex robots to old people as well. And I think that.
Listen. I'm like hashtag forever alone for a long time now. And, if y'all want to be making a sex robot to satisfy all my needs, including companionship, sign me up.
Yeah, it'll cost a pretty penny though. Maybe more than women, which is the trope,
Oh, but I see now this is, again, the thing that fascinates me the most. So... And like, we've watched, what was that film with Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson? Her, right?
Yeah.
That was a great film. With the way he falls in love with her, just like through the voice and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. There is an element though to touch and having a physical presence around you. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like as much as I think this stuff is cool, and don't get me wrong, I'd be probably an early adopter of a proper sex robot that could make me coffee too. I think I would still want the human element, at least to begin with. I mean, I'm open to anything and everything. So like, I would totally want to try a relationship with an AI robot. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I would never discount that, but I think for a long time to come, and maybe this is where, legislation would need to change and things like that, is where would they even be seen as human? And this then devolves into that whole conversation of how games like Detroit become human, where they talk about things. You know what I mean? So there's such a really great conversation to be had around this, actually. Mm-hmm. Which we've had quite a bit of it right now already. Sorry, was there anything else you wanted to say about this? I mean, I just totally like took it into another.
That's fine. I don't mind it at all. Yeah.
Now, of course, I mean, so like one of the things is it's good to be knowledgeable about things. Hey, Edward?
Yes, that's it. And on that topic, Hans, I found another.
Welcome for my luscious segue, okay?
I found another cool tidbit this week, which is that PornHub now does sex ed, proper sex ed.
Good. It's about damn time. I'm not clapping too hard because I'm right by the mic, but like, look, okay, wait. Before you get into this, and I haven't even read what you've got here, but I want to say this is fantastic, and I hope that schools will use this because goodness knows, sex ed in schools is awful.
It's horrible.
Awful. Even today.
It's either non-existent or just lacking.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Now tell me now. Tell us more about this.
So the thing is, porn is often accused of giving people this weird ideas, this crazy ideas of sex.
But that's not a wrong opinion though.
Not at all. So basically, PornHub took it to themselves to basically teach people more about real sex, about the anatomy, about everything.
That's awesome. That's
So
really awesome.
they created the first sex ed series Pornhub has ever seen,
Have you
which
watched it?
is no, I've seen a few episodes of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Oh, cool. Okay, tell me. Oh, you know what? Okay, it's a pity
Yeah.
that this is NSFW because you could have totally thrown this up into the review section.
Oh, I guess so. Yeah. Because that's what I watch, where you watch TV shows.
Yeah, exactly. I'm watching Marvel superhero shows, and you're learning about sex.
Yeah. Perusing sex.com and pornhub.com. Okay, so if you go to Pornhub, the sex ed portal, which is pornhub.com/sex, you'll be met with 11 new episodes of the series.
That's
which
awesome.
is
Wow.
Yeah, it literally covers all the topics from basically how to use a condom, how to communicate correctly, the proper anatomy of a female and a man.
Good. This is very, very, very. You know what? Like, I mean, we might think we know a lot as well, right?
Yeah.
But I can guarantee you that watching this, we'll probably learn a couple of things.
Yeah.
Hey?
Like, legit.
I mean, you've watched a few now, right? I mean, did you
Yes.
feel at all that maybe there were a couple of things in there, despite your vast knowledge on the subject, that was still like, oh, wow.
Well, I've learned a thing or two about the male penis in episode 8, which I did not know. So basically, every episode has a single topic. Episode 1, for instance, is all about communication, whereas episode 2 is all about safe masturbation habits.
I'm so glad that they started that off with communication.
Uh-huh.
Well done, Pornhub. Well,
yes.
Because, no, think about, without saying anything, that is number one. Not just communication in the bedroom. It is communication of, do you want to do this with me? Are you willing? Consent and communication.
One of the topics they actually bring up in the video is it's good to communicate. It's good to ask and let your partner know what you want.
Yes.
But it's also good to just stop carrying on asking if they say no. And they mention that, like, if your partner doesn't want something, you can't push them for it all this time.
That's such a pity that even needs to be said.
Yeah.
No means no, everybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't, and that's for everything. Hey, do you want some coffee? No. Yeah. Hey, do you want this in your butt? No. Okay, it's no. No is no. Exactly. It doesn't matter what it is.
See, the thing is, I think people forget that because when you talk about communication in regards to sex, it's always a matter of, oh, but I like this and you're my SO, so you should do this to me or whatever. The thing is, it's a thin line of broaching your interests and forcing them on someone. And
I see. Okay. It's a duality. So So number one, it is, you need the other person's consent. So, like, if you're doing something and they're saying, yes, carry on, go for it. If they say, no, I don't like this, stop. But at the same time, if you ask your partner to do something to you and they're not comfortable with it, you also have to respect that.
Yes. It goes both ways. It's a tango, not a single show.
And that's actually why... So, just a little thing. So, my mother's been binge watching The Bachelor. And in one of the episodes, one of the guys is a virgin, and I think that's absolutely incredible. It's a remarkable thing to abstain for a very long period of time, and I take my hat off to that guy. Anyway, the reason why I'm speaking about that is because there was a discussion on the show, and they were talking about how you don't know if you're going to really be compatible with somebody unless you've actually been sexually with them. And to an extent, I would agree. To an extent, I disagree. So, sex is awesome. Sex is great.
Yeah.
You do need to have some level of sexual compatibility, but it should not be the defining factor of your relationship.
Yeah.
There are far more important things than just getting your socks off with each other. And those are you friends before you're lovers? Do you respect each other? Do you support each other in what you do? Do you know what I mean? There's so
Yeah,
many
companionship,
other
respect.
facets. Yes, there's so many other
Yes.
facets that are important to a relationship before you even get to the topic of lovemaking.
Yeah.
And, you know, in that respect, what I would say then is if your partner ticks off 90% of everything, but there's an ever so slight 10% that you're not happy with, and it happens to be in the bedroom. And let's assume it's not because their performance is not good. It's more along the lines of they don't want to do something to you because they're not comfortable with it. You know, I'm of the opinion that can be forgiven and you look past it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It shouldn't then become the focal point for you now to have reason to cheat or do bad things. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I know I'm speaking from a bias because this is my opinion, but the fact
Yeah.
of the matter is I do believe in that. I
Yeah.
believe that sex is not primary to a relationship. It is very much tertiary or fourth, fifth. It's far down the line. Yes, it's great to be compatible, but it's not the most important thing.
Exactly.
There are far more things that you need in a relationship before you even have that. And with that in mind, for those of you who are listening, give us your opinion. You're listening to this and what we're talking about, and specifically this particular scenario. Do you agree with what I'm saying? Do you disagree? Do you feel differently about it? I see Edward is agreeing with me, and so at least obviously this is why we do get all together, because we're quite similarly minded in not in everything, but in in most things. Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much it about communication. And then they go on about masturbation and good habits surrounding that. Episode 8 is all about
that. I really do.
Episode 8 is all about the penis, and episode 11...
Wait. No, you're not going away that quickly. What did you learn that you didn't know before? Tell us. I'm curious now.
It's just like how basically the foreskin is actually beneficial to many to males who didn't have it removed. See, I don't know that, for instance.
Are you circumcised?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Well, you definitely should know, Edward.
I think I'm not, because I do have foreskin.
Okay, so then there we go. So
yeah.
In other words, you have enough that it covers the whole front.
Not the whole front. That's why I don't know.
Okay, so your task for this week is to ask your parents and then let us know next week, because
okay, fine.
You really kind of should know.
I know that circumcision removes all the skin.
Not all of it. So generally, if you have been, it looks like a mushroom. You know, the head is mostly always visible, and then the skin it backs up. I don't know what you want to call it, like behind the head.
It shrivels up.
Yeah, there we go. It shrivels up. It's behind the head. If you're not circumcised, then that skin goes over the head.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I think I might.
I'm going to assume you're not. I'm going to assume you're not, because you would technically know if you have been. Now, this is very, very fascinating, because I do want to just talk about this just for a second. I actually had a good friend in the past who was circumcised. And unfortunately, over time, in growing more so as an adult, and obviously being sexually active, realized that something wasn't right. More so because it was always very, very painful to have an erection.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually found out that it was because whoever did the circumcision when he was a young child botched it up. So he never had a good sex life for... Well, he had no sex life for as long as he could remember, for a very, very long time. And then eventually in his mid-20s, he decided to seek help, because it just, you know, when he asked around to people he trusted about should it be painful, and I was one of the few people that was like, no, it's amazing. So
it should never be painful.
No, I was a very good friend at the time, and I was like, no, look, you should maybe go and see somebody. Go and see a professional, talk about it, see what it is. And then it came out that was actually the case, and then he actually regrew it, if you can believe that.
How?
So it takes a long time. It takes perseverance, but essentially you get like a pretty cool like silicone cup thing, and it actually attaches to the front. And what it does is it just pulls the skin forward the whole time. And because any man out there knows that it's soft. You know, generally that area is quite soft. So by doing that, and you do it over a lengthy period of time now, you know, like months and months and months, it actually eventually pulls it to the point where it almost like regrows it. And he is actually very much an advocate for not circumcising children, And he tells people about it, those that he's comfortable about it, and even those that he isn't, those who have children, and he highly advises them not to do it because, he wouldn't have had all of those problems if he hadn't been, and B, from now speaking from my own research into the subject, because I was curious about it after we spoke about it, is how there is new evidence that it actually is quite traumatic for the baby. They feel the pain, they don't know what's going on, so there is some evidence that it's not ideal. And the fallacy that you're cleaner without the foreskin is actually been disproven on numerous occasions.
That makes
It's actually very, very good for you. And the smegma, which is what a lot of people in the past used to be like, oh, that's so disgusting, that's so gross, is that like cheesy substance. So people who are circumcised don't get it. People who have their foreskin will get it. And that's actually healthy. Having smegma is healthy. Of course, now, I mean, if it smells rank and you're not cleaning it, that's bad.
Yeah.
But healthy smegma is, whitish, slightly yellowish, and it doesn't have a smell. It's just, you clean yourself, you look after yourself, you don't have to worry, Anyway, that's just a small little thing that I thought I'd say. And also, and this was most interesting, he did eventually concede to me that he has better, longer, and more profound orgasms now. So
that's good.
Because apparently with the skin over the head of the penis, it actually it revitalizes the area. So, and I'm talking about a lot now, but like a circumcised penis, the head looks and feels different because it's exposed to air the whole time. Whereas if you are uncircumcised, it's softer, shinier, and more preserved. And to feel the difference, basically, is if you want to know what uncircumcised feels like, just take your finger and rub the inside of your cheek. That's what it's meant to feel like. Yeah. Anyway, that's just, I know a lot about it because obviously, he was a good friend of mine, and we spoke about it a lot, and he gave me resources to read, and it's always good to be knowledgeable about stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's very cool.
Yeah.
So basically, you already know everything about episode 8.
Oh, is that what you were getting to? Or was it? No, sorry. I mean, I didn't. It's just, look. It's fascinating that they're doing this, because if I didn't have somebody in my life who went through an issue like that, I wouldn't know any better.
Yeah.
So it's good that they're doing this. It's good that they're creating, knowledgeable content to educate people. So
exactly.
Yeah, this is fantastic. It's really, really good.
Yeah. And then that's basically all the episodes. They span about 3 to 5 minutes each. And they are much more non-NSFW as you think.
As they should be, because it's educational. It's not meant to be anything else.
Exactly. Now, obviously, the first episode, which is all about communication, it has no nudity. The second one, which is all about masturbation, it has lots of nudity, but it's tasteful. It's not like all over the place.
Well, I mean, think about it. How else would you show someone without showing them?
Exactly.
I just hold it. Wait, before you carry, I have another example. I'm sorry, I have to just say this. So I remember reading. It was a previous report, and it was about educating young people in South Africa. And one of the reports actually indicated how they had done sex ed for the girls, but couldn't understand why some of them were getting pregnant. And when they went back to do a follow-up, they asked the girls, they were like, where is the issue? We showed you how to put a condom on. So why didn't you do it? Why did you get pregnant? And they were like, no, they did it. And they were like, well, show us. So what they would do is they would take it and put it on like a broom or a banana, and then put it next to them, and then make love. I know. Look. The thing is, that might sound stupid, but realistically, think about this for a second. You're a 15, 16-year-old, right? Yes, and somebody's teaching you about sex ed, and they're telling you, oh, all you have to do is put this condom on this banana, and you won't get pregnant. Like, I mean, if you don't think about it, and you listen to what the teacher is saying, you're going to do that. Okay, kids are ignorant. That's
a whole new discussion about this generation of children.
That's something else. but what I'm trying to say is, I appreciate the fact that they're not using other things to showcase what needs to be showcased. They're showing the actual thing. So this way, there is no confusion. Here, you're seeing a penis be with a condom being put on. So now, anybody who watches it is like, Oh.
They're like, oh, it goes there.
Yes.
So yeah, these videos are all educational. What's funny though is the ads that you get beforehand, which is very NSFW.
Well, of course,
so
it
but-
is on the. You
Um,
know what? That they should actually make those ad free for educational purposes.
I
but,
think so as well.
You know, you got to make money. So we've
Yeah,
actually
that's-
spoken about this earlier this week. I tweeted about how some websites are just truly awful when it comes to ads. Like honestly, if I'm coming to your site, especially on mobile, and you're serving me ads whereby I can't even scroll properly, and then when I click on a link, I get an ad before getting to your link. I want you to know that 100% of the time I'm going to close the page and Google something else.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's all I found this week.
So that's the end of NSFW.
Yeah.
Wow, Edward. Wow, this was a long, informative, very discussion-worthy NSFW section.
Yeah,
which I
think
really very much enjoyed. I always do, though. I feel, I feel you don't talk enough when I'm speaking. but
it's better this way, I think.
No, in fairness, I do understand you are in a lot of pain. I saw it now when you were trying to talk. You did duck out of the camera a few times, which for those of you who actually do watch and you followed last week's episode, you know that we mentioned that when Edward ducks out of view, it's because he's in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
So I do feel bad though, because I'm so used to us having this proper back and forth. So I don't want to I don't want to have this whole it's just me, when it is very much it's a co-production.
It was a good discussion nonetheless, to be fair.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it very much, yeah. But you see, that's me though. I'm constantly interrupting you, so I need you to interrupt me. Well, when you're feeling better, when you're feeling better, yeah. Now, with that in mind, for those of you who have been following on, you do know that, and on socials and both listening to the podcast, we have mentioned how we would love your questions and your feedback. More so because next week is technically our last episode for 2020, episode 42. So if you do have anything you want to hear from us, know about us, any questions, send them to us. The email for Gettle is, you can find it directly in the link on gettle.com, or if you click on any of our social links, like in the bio of any of our socials, there is a direct link right there. Where if you click on that, it opens up to where you can follow us, and one of those is email us, which a few of you have used, which is great. Alternatively, if you don't mind the world reading your comments, by all means, leave them on YouTube, on Twitter, Instagram. We see them all. I especially love the YouTube ones. They're some of my favorite. Just putting it out there. Y'all know who you are. Yeah. And as always, we appreciate the support. We love it. We do this because we're passionate about it. And it's nice to interact with you guys. So yeah. Even if you listen nice. Yeah. All right. So that's the end of episode 41, and we'll see you all next week for the finale of 2020. Yeah. And until then, Edward and everybody, from both of us, we wish you all a wonderful week ahead. So from that said, ciao for now.
Bye.